well-known real estate investor and mentor who purchased its first property in 1993. As an investor, Michael has done, let's take notes here, quick turns, foreclosures, pre-foreclosures, assignments, rehabs, subject tos, cash flow rentals, pre-constructions, emerging market investing, and 5-day sales. A very active investor, he has averaged one new deal every 2 weeks for over the past 2 years. His how-to articles for real estate investors have been published both nationally and locally. Michael is the founder and president of HonoluluMentor.com, the co-founder of Wealth Clubs of America, elected chairman of Honolulu Business Network's East Oahu chapter, and is a regular guest on Tiny Radio, first Fridays of the month on OC 16. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present to you Michael Mazzella.
Well, aloha, Fames.
Aloha.
How's it? Well, it's good to be here. I want to thank you guys for inviting me to come over and speak. Now, before we came out here today, Gavin and I did some research and we ran some numbers, and something came up though that was pretty interesting. I thought I would share with you. We found out that 1 out of every 3 people who come to networking events, just like this one, right here at Fames, 1 out of every 3 people are both highly intelligent and extremely good looking. Isn't that fascinating? So, as I was driving over here today, I figured, well, let's have some fun. So, 1 out of every 3, let's find out who those people are. So, here's what I want you to do. Look at the person to your right and the person to your left. Go ahead and take a moment. Now, just as a reminder, here's what you're looking for. Both highly intelligent and extremely good looking. Well, I see you're done already, so obviously it's neither of them, which means it must be you. You are highly intelligent and extremely good looking. So I thought you might like to know that, okay? And somebody said, oh, get 1 in 3 chance, huh? Good thing it was me. So, turn to your neighbor, and in just a moment, I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, because it was you and not the person sitting next to you, I am highly intelligent and extremely good looking. Go ahead. Okay, so you know that I'm here to talk about the top 10 ways to make 2010 the best year of your life. So that was number 1. We only got 9 left. You just keep saying that to everybody you meet, okay? All right, so seriously, I'm gonna share. At the beginning of the year, I challenged myself to make 2010 the best year of my life, and I would like to share with you some of the things that have been working for me, in the hopes that maybe, as we go through, a couple of these things may resonate with you, and that you too could have an extra tool or 2 to put in your toolbox on your journey that may help you, okay? So first, number 1, begin with the quadrant. A lot of people, when we start out with goals, we tend to focus on one thing. Often it's wealth. And I don't know if you guys know what I do, but I also have a teaching program where I teach people how to create first-generational wealth. And we're pretty good at it. The problem is that it doesn't necessarily make people happy. There's a lot of unhappy millionaires, okay, that are out there. It is important to focus on the quadrant. So let me kind of explain this to you. There's health, wealth, and happiness. And note that happiness has occupies half of the quadrant, actually, which is appropriate, I think. Emotional happiness, where it talks about your relationships, the quality of your relationships, and your own level of self-confidence. And then there's spiritual happiness. So this is how you are grounded. For some people, for most people, it's religion, but it may not be. Some people are atheists, so then it's going to be about my purpose and why am I here in life. Okay, I call it my life project. And then, of course, there's the health and wealth side. So ideally, in the perfect world, you would be, if you're balanced in all four of these quadrants, you'd have a perfect square. Now, that is rarely the case. In the most, actually, you know, if you're weaker in one area, the square starts to crumble and puts undue pressure on the other sides. It shows up in the other quadrants, too. So the goal is to get it balanced. And the most common pattern that we see is where people are strong in two areas but not strong in two others. Okay. So as we go forward, it's important, I think, to remember that it is a quadrant. You can do really well in one area. One of the ways that this became really important to me a couple of years ago, I had a very good year financially as a real estate investor. I made $610,000 that year, which at that time was my personal best on the financial side, on the wealth side. Yet, during the same 12 months, it was probably the worst year of my life on the health side. Because I think I managed to do an entire 12 months without exercising once. Okay, and I ate and ate and ate and lived merrily, and I gained like 30 pounds. So I would ask you, I mean, is that really worth it? No, it's not. So remember the quadrant. Okay, that's the first one. Okay, now I'm actually trying really hard to run my butt off, literally, and I'm trying to get rid of all that extra weight that I need. Still working. So number two is your goals. Now, when it comes to writing goals, I found that for a lot of people, they hit what I call a paper wall when it comes to writing goals. It's kind of like a big thing, like, what do I focus on? And there's so many different things I want to do and accomplish. Should it be a bucket list or just for a short period or what? So one of the things I came up with that has been pretty effective with my students, I like to share with you. I call it the list of tens. Okay? List of tens, right? So you're going to write down 10 things I want to be, 10 things I want to do, and 10 things that I want to have. In fact, that could be your homework for tonight, okay? Write this down, and it's cool to do it. We do it in one of my recent mastermind groups. We actually did this during the group when we had 3 sheets of paper. And we had some cool music playing, and we all went off into a corner. We sat down, and we just did it, okay? So I would encourage you to do this. Okay, number 3, and then once you get some good goals in, okay, detail. Go back to your list of 10s and start adding some detail. Because typically you're going to have 10 bullets. Okay, so then I want you to go back a second time and take each of those bullets and turn it into a paragraph and be more detailed. And yes, that means you have to make decisions. You have to tell us what color that sports car is that you're going to drive. Is it white? But we want you to be more detailed. What does it feel like? And I want you to, you know, when you put your hands around the steering wheel and when you step on that accelerator, the feeling of your back being thrust into the seat. And all of these, you know, cars and telephone poles are just whoosh, 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 whoosh. I want you to get that level of detail. Okay, you can see it, feel it, touch it, taste it, smell it. Okay, when you're describing your goal to me, it should be really real. Okay? You see what you're doing here, those of you familiar with the laws of attraction, that's what you're bringing into play at this point. Once you get really detailed with it, you're communicating to the universe, if you will, exactly what it is that you want. Okay? And I also believe in using vision boards. Okay? If you're going to get detailed, well, why not use a picture? If a picture is 1,000 words, well, how about it? What about a vision board? I've seen some really good ones that some of my graduates have put together. I have a couple with me that I can share. Would you like to see? Would you like to see a couple of vision boards? Okay, let's take a look. Here's one that the young lady did. And I don't know if you can see this, but if you look closely, she actually has written, you know, the text in there of some of her goals. So let's see if I could, one says, for instance, I have my own personal chef, assistant, and maid. And there's a picture of that. So, I mean, you can see it and kind of visualize and feel it. Okay? I like this one over here. But yeah, pretty good. But notice also that she has incorporated the 4 quadrants. You can see there's health, wealth and happiness. That's all in there. So she's captured that in her goals. Just as in your list of 10s, when you write your list of 10s, you want to make sure you captured some of the health, wealth, and happiness. You want it to be all about, making money. Okay? When you look at the quadrant, by the way, the 4 quadrants, there's one that I think is the least important. Okay? And that is the wealth quadrant. If you had to throw one out and be strong in the other 3, I would say the wealth quadrant is actually the least important. My students, when I teach them how to invest and I tell them this, they get bummed out, like, oh, shoot, man. It's like, well, we're going to focus, it's all right, the rest of the course on the wealth side, but I just want you to get this part, that it's just not about wealth. Yet, that's the least important. However, when it comes to writing goals, that's what most people focus on. Okay. Is this pretty cool? Can you start to really see it and feel it? You want to see another one? Here's one more. One of the things I like about this one, and again, there's health, wealth, and happiness in there. And I like this one. It might at first glance look like a little bit, cheesy, but what he did, he actually took the physique that he wanted. He found, a picture, and he photoshopped his own head on top. And I thought, I think that's pretty cool. Because you talk about visual, I tell you, one of the big projects that I'm on right now is getting myself back into shape. And I tell you that it's that when I can't do any more reps, and I trying to, because it's really those last 3, right, Ben? You're trying to get those extra last 2. That's where you really build the muscle. And one of the things I visualize is what the goal is, man. And I can see the goal, and I get it done. So I really like that. I think that's a good idea. Moving on, number 4, burn your bridges. Okay. Now, what do I mean by that? Burn your bridges. You guys ever heard of, you may remember General Cortez from 9th grade history, okay? But, or you may have read Napoleon Hill's book and have heard of this story. But General Cortez, his army was facing a foe that was superior in numbers than his own. So he loaded up his men and all the equipment on ships, and they sailed over to that, to countries, the enemy shores, and they offloaded everything on the beaches. And as they got ready, he sent the word out to burn the ships, set the ships afire. And then as all his men assembled, and he walked on the beach, he said, okay, you see our ships are burning. There's no way for us to get out. There's no retreat. We either win or we die. And as history tells us, they won. Okay? Pretty cool, yeah. So now, I don't want you guys to go home tonight and start setting your boats on fire and stuff. Don't burn anything, okay? But get the point here. The point is that, there is no way that I'm not going to hit that goal. There's no way. I make it impossible in my mind. You want to get there first up here. Seal off your escape routes. Because, that is part of, we're kind of hardwired to have escape routes, and it starts up here. Okay? We're hardwired that way. So you want to try to short circuit those, your escape routes. Okay, so that doesn't happen. Number 5, beware the bucket of crabs. Okay, another one of my favorite metaphors. Now, when they're offloading on the docks a bucket of crabs, they never have to put a lid on that bucket. Never. Because the ambitious ones, the ones that try to get out, are going to get pulled back in by all the others. Okay? So, I want you to think about this for just a minute, because this really applies to us. It's not about the crabs, folks. Okay, this applies to us in a big way.